A stray dog kept staring at the storm drain until people opened it to discover a shocking truth. Hello there, friends, and welcome to the channel. It's a popular saying that looks can be deceiving. What you see and assume could be different from reality. Stray animals get the least amount of our attention because, to be honest, they don't matter to most of us. We may own and love pets, but when it comes to stray animals, we tend to put on a deaf ear and a blind eye to their needs and plights. What if we tell you about a stray dog that shook an entire community with his strange yet heartwarming behavior? People worldwide have formed biased opinions about animal behavior, which may not be true. Most of us believe animals are devoid of civility and humility. If you also think along similar lines, wait until you find out what this stray dog in Turkey did that forced people to change their perception of animals altogether. Don't even miss a second of this video, because what you'll find out today is a unique tale of courage, care, and compassion. So, let's get started. Somewhere in Istanbul, Turkey, there lived a young woman called Annie. She was a workaholic lady and was almost always on the go. Usually, Annie's routine was so hectic that she barely looked around to see what people were up to. A regular part of her weekly outings was buying groceries. She went to buy meat at least twice a week in a nearby butcher shop. One day, she was at the same meat shop to buy steaks, and while coming back, she heard a faint growl at her back. She turned and was surprised to see a shaggy, frail, stray German shepherd looking straight at the pack of steaks she was carrying. This wasn't uncommon in Turkey, as many stray animals wandered around in public areas, particularly streets in every neighborhood. They never disturb anyone, so people were okay with having stray animals around. However, Annie wasn't so fond of pets, so she would usually shoo them away if she ever crossed paths with a stray dog. This time too, Annie could have easily shooed the dog away if she hadn't looked into his eyes. She had never observed such sadness and hopelessness in anyone's eyes before. It broke her heart. Annie couldn't simply look away and walk to her home. She knew the dog was hungry. So she returned to the butcher's shop, bought some bones and cut-offs, and fed them to the dog. The glimmer of hope she saw in the dog's eyes filled her heart with happiness and peace. The next day, Annie was on her way back home from work when she saw the same dog trotting down the road. The dog also recognized Annie and hesitantly started coming closer to her while wagging his tail. Annie was surprised at the dog's response. It was as if he was expecting something from her. She went to the shop, bought some more bones for the dog, and offered him some food. This time, Annie didn't leave immediately like she had done the previous day, but stood there just to see his hopeful, glistening eyes. But something shocking happened that surprised her. The dog didn't start eating right away. He looked so hungry, and she could hear strange sounds from the dog's empty stomach. But the dog didn't eat the bones. He did give her the same look of graciousness and gratitude and walked away. The food was still in his mouth. What was going on with this dog? Why was he behaving so strangely? Any other dog would have hounded over the food, but this one calmly walked past her to somewhere she had no idea about. Naturally, Annie felt curious to find out, but was in a hurry, so she decided to go home. However, she kept thinking about the dog's strange behavior the whole night. There was something the dog was hiding. What could it be? Annie said to herself. She had to find out. The next day, Annie was walking down the street when she saw the same dog sitting around. The dog also seemed excited to see her. She had been waiting for this moment, so she smiled at him and he approached her happily. Annie had already bought some sausages for the hungry-looking pup and offered him the food. The dog reacted positively as if he was expecting it from her. This time, Annie was prepared to follow the dog if he didn't start to eat. And within seconds, the shaggy dog turned and started to walk away. Annie followed him, and they arrived at a busy street. Annie was skeptical about discovering what was happening in this dog's life. Why wasn't he eating the food? Eventually, the two reached a secluded corner of the street. The dog was a few feet ahead of her. Annie kept a close eye on the dog as he approached the storm drain, sat beside it, and looked down. Now, the dog's activities had Annie concerned. She came closer and was shocked to see what the dog did next. He dropped some of the food Annie had just given him into the storm drain and started eating the remaining food himself. Annie felt confused. Why would the dog do that when he was so hungry? The young woman left the scene with a puzzled expression. The next day, she followed the same routine and was again surprised to see the frail dog throwing half of his food down the drain and then eating the rest himself. Now, she couldn't wait to find out what was happening here, so she slowly approached the dog, who had become pretty friendly with her. He was staring into the storm drain as Annie crept over to the place and looked at the canine to allow her to see as well. The dog understood and let her look into it. The moment she looked down, Annie gasped. She couldn't believe her eyes, so she glanced again. Now she was concerned and immediately called the fire department for help. Within 30 minutes, 2 firefighters showed up. Annie explained the problem to them, and the men got to work right away. But the dog howled at them angrily, forcing them to step back. He didn't let them come near the storm drain. The firemen asked Annie to intervene. She patted the dog and assured him that they were there to help. The dog trusted Annie so much that he allowed the firefighters to get near the drain. They opened the storm drain up and peeked inside. What they found shocked both firemen. Are you ready to find out? The firefighters made a shocking discovery. They found a kitten trapped in the storm drain. They couldn't believe their eyes. This means the dog had been feeding the kitten. By this time, a crowd had already gathered around them. Everyone was shocked to find out that an innocent kitten had been trapped inside the dark and dirty drain all this while, and no one had any idea about it. If you think this is the end of the story, sit back and relax, because there's more. The firefighters went into the drain again and brought back another kitten. They did this parade 4 times, and they came back with a kitten every time. Within an hour, the crew had saved 5 little kittens. Annie was speechless, and so was everyone else standing around. The dog's care for these kittens was beyond adorable. Nobody had thought he was trying to keep those kittens alive by feeding them half of his feed daily. He was solely responsible for their lives, which is definitely the greatest act of kindness we have ever witnessed. Annie inquired from the firefighters regarding how the kittens ended up in the storm drain, to which they responded that it could be due to heavy rain that swept those little felines into the drain. They got stuck and couldn't escape the ordeal. Thanks to the selfless dog, they could be rescued and were in good health. Annie asked the firefighters to hand over all the kittens to her. She promised to take care of them until they were ready for adoption. The crew agreed and decided to drop them at home. As she readied to leave, she looked around for the dog and found him sitting in a corner, looking at the kittens and Annie with sadness. Annie called out to the canine, asking him to follow her. She had made up her mind. This dog won't end up on the streets again. She'll take care of these pets as long as she can. Come on, Benny, let's go home, she said to the dog, and he happily nodded, wagging his tail. A few months later, the kittens were big enough to be adopted, so she found homes for 4 of them and kept one kitten, whom she had named Fudge, for herself, as she had developed a strong bond with them. Benny was a healthy and happy dog now, and they all lived happily together like a family. Isn't it an incredible tale of compassion and selflessness? Let's make a pact to always be kind to everyone, whether humans or animals, and never miss an opportunity to help everyone around. Sometimes, a little effort on your part can save someone's life or make it better. Please share your feedback in the comment section below, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and press that bell icon to stay connected with us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.